My name is Anoma. I don't really use my surnames. And I don't really like to designate what I am because I have done such a variety of different things, from mixed media to a lot of video work to sculpture, oils, digital, iPad art. So it's a variety. So in a way, I don't feel I can actually call myself anything. I mean, I'm just an explorer. That's an idea. Adventurer, explorer.
So hello and welcome
Hi.
to another episode of HUNAR CHARCHA online artist series where we chat with artists and creators from all over the world. This time we have Sri Lanka's best known artist, installationist and designer Anoma Wijewadene. Anoma is a kind of artist who doesn't like to limit herself to creating works. She also is a seeker and explorer who likes to find solutions to the problems of our world today. Her latest series of works are going to be on display at the Sri Lanka Design Festival 2021. So a very warm welcome to you, Anoma, to HUNAR CHARCHA online.
I'm delighted to join you and thank you for inviting me. I'm very honored. Thank you.
So let's begin talking about your latest work, which you've called Vivikta, which comes from a Sanskrit word, which means aloneness, separation, purity, among so many other things. And it comes out of your experience of the lockdown that the whole planet went through. And let's talk about your particular experiences of this lockdown and quarantine. What exactly was going through your mind when you began this project or began this series of work?
I have to say I felt quite traumatized and very frightened, and I was alone in this space, which is quite a large space to be alone in every day. And, my sister had to lay things outside the house and, food or whatever, that groceries. And then, I had to go and collect it when she was far away so that, everybody was, I could have been infectious. So that was also quite difficult.
And you had just returned from Sydney. You had just come back.
From my show in Sydney. It was on and it started on the 8th of March. We had the opening and then Sydney was also going into this not lockdown. They were much later than us, but
right.
They were being infected, and so it was very frightening. And then luckily I decided to bring my return forward, and then so the show was still going on, but I came back, and so it was just after one show, and then this happened, and so one's feeling quite blocked and worried and unable to express myself in any way, and literally it's scared, like we all are, I guess. And then I sort of had a chat with somebody, and we just sort of decided to kind of maybe exchange work, and just to and to also accept that it wasn't going to not be of any value, but just so that we actually do something. And so this series started not intentionally, but just to sort of stop myself from going bonkers. And then it sort of developed from there because it became quite interesting, let's say. Because it's very internal and it's very intimate, if you like. You've seen some of the work or images of some of the work, so you know what it's sort of about and like. So yeah, that's how it happened. Yeah.
Your practice has often sort of included the writings of poets and authors from all over the world, and this particular work is also informed by the writings of Ramya Jira.
Ramya Dhiraj Singh. Yes.
So how did that come about? Did you hear the lines earlier, or did you see the paintings and then write the lines?
No. I did the paintings, and obviously one's still kind of not going out, even when we came out of lockdown, which was in sort of June or something. And so the paintings continued till December. But sometime maybe in November, I was looking through her most recent poetry book, which was published in London, and just for, just, how it is. One lies in bed and reads a book of poetry sort of thing. And then I suddenly thought, oh, I know that I've done this before, but, there's so many lines in here that's talking about this. I can't believe this. And so I sort of contacted her and said, may I use these? And she said, yes, of course, you can use anything. And I'm very grateful that people have been like that and have responded so positively each time. And so I started, thinking, oh, this little bit of line really expresses that, and da, 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 da. So it started that way. And then at some point along the way, I also felt that they should be embedded in the paintings, that the lines needed to be actually written as well. Sort of, and the works are sort of inside outside, as you've seen. So there's this whole sort of so the words are sort of more or less outside the painting, and yet the painting, there's this double thing going on, and sometimes the words are quite prominent, and then sometimes they're kind of, can't even see them. So to have this sort of they're there but they're not there, they're important but they're not important. So it's up to how anyone wants to receive it, really, I suppose. But yeah, so that was just sort of not coincidental, but just something that happened. But of course, always the paintings that come first. And in fact, even when she earlier wrote for an exhibition of mine, Deliverance, she wrote after seeing the paintings.
Obey the flow, the stream, the current, the tide, the wind, the rhythm, the seasons, the quakes, the reaping, the flowering, the budding, the blooming, the aging, the dying, the rising, the growing, the flowering, the flowing, the flow, obey.
It's interesting because you trained as a fashion designer at London Central St. Martin's.
Textile designer.
Textile designer.
Which involves, of course, a lot of drawing. All day, that's what you do, draw and paint,
Right. So why didn't you begin your sort of journey into with fine arts itself? Why go into textile designing and then into
because my parents absolutely said, no way. They wanted me to go to university. I had the grades to go to university, so I had to anyway battle to go to art college in London instead. So
what were their concerns? What were they worried about?
You can't make a career as an artist, right? That's not a real job. maybe not a real job, but you know what I mean? That, the concern the parents may have that a child can't actually earn a living from.
So do something which is creative, but which could also get you a job.
Yeah. But I got very good grades, so I could have gone to university, I suppose, and so that's what they would have preferred me to do. But then, so I had to do a deal with them that, okay, then I'll do something that's applied arts, where perhaps you can earn a living and, have a career. Whereas, as we all know, it's a, difficult life as an artist is a,
Right. And you did have a career as a designer. You worked with some of the best known fashion labels. How was that experience?
Oh, that was amazing. I loved doing it. I loved textiles. I loved being out there, and I did fashion textiles. And so, my work was bought by Saint Laurent, by Cardin, by, Cacharel by Jean-Paul Gaultier when he was working for Cacharel. And, so that was amazing. And my first piece of work that I ever did actually go on the cover of Vogue magazine.
Wow.
Very long time ago. But I was still doing my MA then. Yeah. But so I did enjoy it.
And at what point did you decide to sort of branch into as a painter and completely devote your total being?
Exactly. Well, I think what happened was that, I was always also painting because I, needed to do that. And there was just watercolors, something simple and easy. Not simple, watercolors are not simple and easy, but sort of doable within the whole thing of designing. And I did, I did sell those. And there was a point at which I returned from England to Sri Lanka. And then I really felt that at that moment, my life anyway was very changed over. My marriage broke up. I moved countries. I had left Sri Lanka at 16. I went to school in India. And then I went on to London. So it was a big change. And I just thought that this is not, I just thought, but again, I think, you know, I realized that this was the moment that I was waiting for, in a way, to be able to paint fully. And so I was very kind of particular about not doing anything with design, but just getting on, you know, leaving that behind, even though there were lots of things I could have done, and, you know, there were temptations, because of course I had done that as a career and, you know, paid the bill. And I had also lectured for over 10, 15 years in England in textiles and design. And so it was quite scary to give it up, but then I felt I had to sort of make that stand and make that decision.
And it is something you never went back to? You never went back to textiles after you began your serious art practice?
No, I mean, I have been invited to, you know, do stuff in textiles, and I've been asked to, you know, collaborate with fashion designers and whatever. But I just have felt that very strongly, that I just want to stick at the moment, let's say. Who knows what happens.
Yes. You've had a very varied and
there's all kinds of possibilities.
Absolutely. So in a way, your artistic journey began with your return to Sri Lanka, and that is what informs your art. You know, there is something about Sri Lanka which really inspires you to paint and create those works. How would you describe your sort of entering this whole frame of mind where your home country sort of makes you aware of what an artist can do, or the place of an artist in making people aware of things and making people realize about what lies around them and what they need to seriously look at?
Yeah, well, I mean, on many levels, I suppose. I came back, you know, to a country that was a war zone, obviously. And so we've lived with nearly 30 years of war. Yeah. Right. So that really does inform one's thinking and focuses one's thinking to a huge degree. And also the tsunami, you know, which also happened, was and has been brought into my work in many ways. So there were some very key things. I mean, and when I first didn't come to live here, but when I was first painting, I was also, you know, rediscovering the cultural and Buddhist aspects of Sri Lanka. And so there was the exhibition that I did in Delhi, which was called Faith, which was about Buddhism and Islam in 2002, which is quite interesting. And so I was looking at the sort of iconography of religions and, you know, the idea of division and diversity, and how do we become inclusive? And, you know, these are questions that we are all asking, having lived through what we lived through so intensely here. Right, you know, bombs going off, people I know who were killed. Yeah, so that really did. And then obviously, as you've been here and you know, it's a very, very lush, beautiful, stunning scenery country. And it's and we've traveled around together, right? Right. Yeah. Right.
That was in 2009.
When was that? Was it then? Really? Yeah. We know we went to Sigiriya together.
Right. Yeah. So we attended this art camp, and it was a lovely experience to go to Sigiriya, to the Lion Rock, and see the beautiful countryside of Sri Lanka. And I'm not surprised that it inspired you, because it is very inspiring for someone who's tuned to the visual aspects, and it's full of iconography.
And it's full of natural beauty as well. Yes. And that, I think, also maybe my concern for the environment and climate change, and you know, the last exhibition that I did in London in 2019 was on climate change, and in fact every painting had a little image of of Greta Thunberg. So I've done actually 7 exhibitions on climate change.
Right. Very often, people realize how the process of an artist works, or how an artist thinks and explores the world around him or her. And it's quite a revelation to a lot of people when an artist says that I also am concerned about something as important, as serious as climate change or the war around me, because people's expectations from an artist are just creativity and making pretty beautiful things. But have you ever had that sort of challenging experience to explain your point of view? You explain your practice to a person who is not probably.
I have, but it's interesting how different people take different things from a painting, or even see different things in a painting. And there are several people who, as you say, aren't really interested in what it's about, or what inspired it, or what fuels it, or what one's, I'm not using art necessarily just to express these ideas. I'm also being, they are creative works, and so I'm having a creative journey with it. In a funny way, this series started as nothing except stop myself, leaping out of the window, But then what's come through is very much a comment on how do we relook at ourselves, how do we reframe. I mean, the images. For the first time, I think, all the works are figurative, except for the installation. I don't know how that happened, and it's very direct. It's very kind of. I think Zaha has written about the fact that the figures are earlier how the figures are hidden, and the figure is center, if you like.
So the quarantine, in fact, made you aware of your figurative side, or made you aware of that peopleness emerge in your work.
Yeah, maybe because one was not being surrounded by
able to see or meet your friends.
Own people. No, that's a very good point. Thank you.
Right.
Yeah. Sort of. So it's and the one person who I shared it with, who had this deal that let's share our, whatever, just to keep us going, kind of thing. And I mean, obviously, only again on my digitally. I said, my God, they're so different. They're so different. I haven't seen you do anything quite like this before, And so, that was definitely done without a plan. And in a sense, I don't think any of the paintings are done with a plan. But obviously, I paint my angst, I think, or my concerns, or my questions. You talked about being an explorer, or So in that sense, I guess I'm searching. Searching.
And I think your installations also come out of that search, or that quest that you have, because I think you did your installations when you were doing a show in Maldives, and it was the whole concern about the island going underwater, and again climate change. So tell us something.
And that was in 2010, and again, interestingly, I did that in Maldives, and I did 2012 when the Rio conference was on. And yet there were a lot of people who just like climate change, who are not actually engaged or that interested or taking it that serious, certainly not taking it very seriously, something that might happen or might come and go or whatever. But the sort of first installation I did, was, and the first sort of digital work I did was in 2007. 2006 at the National Gallery. I did this exhibition of images of the war. I'd been to various places, and tsunami, and then combined it. So they were very digital and words, and then I had a video installation, and I think, so that was the beginning of that kind of work that becomes more, installation, if you like. Yeah.
So
and then it was very much for the first time really that I did sort of interactive works, you know, where people had to engage. But also in 2010, sorry, for Phoenix. So yeah, so slowly that installation thing, installations became sort of important, and sculptural works.
So I would like to understand, how does this progression work? Like you began with textiles, and somehow you didn't feel that your work as a designer addressed all the things that you wanted to feel at that particular moment. And you came into as a full-time painter, and then from the installationist and video artist, was that also coming out of a quest to explore different mediums, different ways of making art?
Think so. I think, I mean, I was very intrigued in 2004 or 3 with the whole digital kind of, you know, art.
What's happening?
Yeah, media art, and I was like very, I mean, obviously I, you know, trawled all the exhibitions in London and in various places, and I was like kind of, oh, do you think I can try this, you know? So it was more like, you know, let's try this, you know?
Right.
And so then that was the beginning of, you know, it was just more to, and also I think using the right medium for the right kind of expression. You know, when I went to Jaffna, the north, at the point when there was a short period of peace, and in fact, collector and also Muse just said to me, "Why do you want? I have to go for a meeting and whatever, and it's a bit dicey. Not dicey, but you know, do you want to come?" And I said, "Yeah." And then I hooked off. I mean, it was only for a few days on my own, and took all these images. And I had, and I did actually have the army watching me, and Tamil tigers following me and asking me, was I a journalist? Because taking photographs as well as making sketches. So I said, no, I'm a painter. And so these works came back, and I was planning to do paintings. But somehow that's when I realized that, no, I think it's going to work better if it's that I turn these into digital art. I mean, they're not photographs; they're actually digital works, and then the video happened from that. So everything sort of progressed. I don't now looking back on it, and you're asking me some wonderful questions, trying to, you know, find out how it started and where it went. But yeah, I just sort of progressed into all these things because, yeah, I feel, oh well, that's not going to express it. That, you know, how is the best way to say this? That's more the way it goes, as well as a curiosity into what's that like? I mean, and recently I've been doing so much video editing. Think, oh, I can have a new career as a video editor.
Yes. Yes.
Because this is quite fun.
And then your whole work on climate change, that is also very interesting to see, because it is, as you have just told me about how you put yourself out in situations where I don't think a lot of artists would, because it is also considered like being a very safe vocation, where you are in your studio painting, but you have been out there in situations which are not exactly safe. And you were often mistaken for a journalist, which in a sense you were going to a place where not many artists would venture.
Yes. No, and there was one point I did something very stupid because I just wanted this shot. I just knew, and I did step into what was labeled mines, beware of mines. Well, I mean, obviously, I'm still here. But you know how when you feel you have to get that, you have to get it, you sort of almost become stupid.
It's almost the excitement of a photojournalist who has his camera and who wants the best picture out of the situation, and just goes. Sometimes they also.
Exactly, I can't get it from this angle. I can't get it from the road. I have to go into that grass. I have to go into that grass, and I'm now thinking, idiot, what an idiot. But anyway, I'm still here, so. So
I wanted to know about your engagement with climate change, because it is a very serious issue, and a lot of people have spoken, writers and poets have talked about it. But As an artist, how do you see yourself engaging with something which is abstract and at the same time very urgent, and it is difficult to sort of portray that in a visual format? How do you go around doing that?
Yeah, well, I mean, it sort of, my first works were, the first time I really sort of engaged with that was in 2005 in Sydney. And I really, I had a sort of sense of, how can I put it? But of being very sort of delicate about it. But I mean, I wasn't thinking the word climate change didn't exist, but it was clear that we were rampaging and pillaging the earth, So it was about trying to say how small we are. And so it just sort of carried on from there into different more, it became more and more, how can I say, I'm trying to say, more and more direct, till I think, the most recent one was very direct in that I actually have, somebody, a very key figure, actually named figure in the paintings, And I think the earlier, and in 2012, we had lots of panels on the street. We had interactive panels. We had information on climate change in 3 languages, boards on which people could actually write their thoughts. So it became more and incrementally more engaging, urgently with it, and so it's sort of grown stronger. But whether to be honest, whether one's actually kind of getting it across to anybody, I don't know. My father was very, very aware and was reading about all this in the 70s. So he was looking at alternative energy. He was looking at alternative farming methods, alternative approaches to agriculture, and he was a future voice in that sense. So
your father was an Olympian.
Yeah, he sailed in the Olympics in 1968. In Mexico. He's quite mixed bag of.
No, it's wonderful to have parents like that, and that's how you are.
Well, they're full of fire and passion about certain things, and of course, if you live with someone like that, then of course you are also imbibing all that. So I mean, I'm reading Schumacher and James Lovelock, and you know what I mean. So that was just because it was there. So I was much more already, attuned to that. Very from my childhood almost. I mean, my early teens, let's say, when you became kind of more aware of sort of the world, and so it's not, it's being sort of not a concern, but it's been there. And I mean, the first concern for the environment was that long ago. It was in the 50s, right? It's just that nobody's listened. I don't know if anyone's even listening now. I mean, the Paris Accord has happened, but then, as you know, Trump pulled out of it. I mean, Biden has said he will go back into it. The next climate change conference of the UN is in Glasgow, and so there's a hope. There's a lot of hope for that.
How do you see the place of an artist in the world today? Because it has definitely changed from the early 20th century or centuries before that, the place of an artist. But today, an artist has to both create works and help make them reach out to people, because we have a lot of newer ways of reaching out and taking our work to the world, but also it's a challenging situation because there's so many people looking for your attention, and in such a scenario the artist has to both create works and also sort of talk about them at different platforms so that more and more people are aware.
I suppose it's the idea of the ivory tower artist, who retreated into the studio, and
that's diminishing gradually, I think.
Yeah, now we have artists who, mostly engage. Not all, I don't think, and I don't think we should ever say this is what an artist should be. I mean, I don't, I mean, that's what's wonderful, that the artist can be whatever it wants to be,
Right.
It is not ruled by anything. But you know, whether it's Tracy Emin talking about women and how women, you know, she was one of the early voices. So Me Too, long before Me Too, because all her paintings and art was about women being abused or used, or, you know, and someone like that, or you know, anybody. I think that, you know, they're far more engaged with the world, and maybe we are also always, or because of social media, because of the way communication systems work, maybe we are all communicating our thoughts and ideas more, and we all want to respond to them. Maybe there was a time, you know, as you say, in the earlier 20th century, when you could retreat from the world, and maybe the world could retreat from it because it felt safe. And now it feels very, very unsafe. I think I'm very sad for all the young people. I mean, as I said, the response to my climate change work, and even my work with unity and universality, the interest is from young people, because they are the ones who are gender bending. They're the ones who are concerned about climate change. They're the ones who are, you know, energized about doing something about Black lives. I mean, you know, all this, it's a sort of different, yeah, kids today have to, you know, have to deal with a lot of difficult stuff. And maybe in the early 10s, it just wasn't so difficult. Like life was easier. The earth was safer, you know? So there's all those sort of reasons why maybe many artists, not all, are responding much more immediately, much more about societal ill life.
Is there also this sort of freedom which has come about in the world today, where you should not just limit most people do not want to just limit themselves to a particular medium or a particular style of working? There's more fluidity, especially for artists and creators. You could also write a book, you could make a video, you could do a bit of rap, or paint.
That is also a sort of future trend. I think from what I've been reading about, what, you know, future trend forecasters are saying, is that people will probably not stick at the one job. You know, you will not have your career again, you know, as one did perhaps last century, in the one job, in the one company, and slowly, incrementally go up. You know, people train one way and they decide to go do something else, and then some career they might go and do something else. And it's, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's fluid, it's gender fluid, it's fluid in many more ways, I suppose. And that's exciting, no?
Yes, I think it's very exciting. I was talking to this school had invited me as a chief guest to speak to their art students, and one of the students asked me this question, that the new technology, how does an artist view new technology? Is it scary, or does the artist feel that he's going to be redundant because technology is sort of overpowering us in a lot of aspects of life? So I said it's never scary or challenging, because technology has always been coming, and we have been incorporating it in our practice, in our work, and it's never scary, because you know that it's there, and once you have a hold of it, you gain some sort of virtuosity in using it, and that's the most exciting part.
It's like what I'm talking about in my work to do with inclusivity and diversity. It's always scary when it's something you don't know. It could be scary. I mean, obviously, a good part of America is scared of, you know, what's the other, the alien,
right,
the outsider. You know, so technology is also scary in that sense, that it's the outsider. I mean, it's not what we have been doing. I mean, artists have been painting with oils and pencil and paper and canvas for centuries and centuries and centuries. And it's as you say, it's very recently that we have started to use all this other technology. But I think it's about embracing, and I think it's about including, and it goes with my thoughts on embracing diversity, inclusivity in races, in nations, and, you know, the more we can put it all into that melting pot and see what comes, be energized rather than being xenophobic about it and separatist and nationalist or divisive or this is how I do it or this is me,
right.
you know, and who are you or what is this technology? Of course, it's scary. So the other is always scary. I mean, it's much easier with the guy next door, you know, or whatever, than some stranger. But so I think it sort of goes with that same idea of, you know, of embracing or being curious and daring to fail also. I think being daring to fail.
That is one of the most important aspects of being an artist. You're not scared to fail. In fact, it's very important to fail and sort of scatter.
Exactly. And, actually, that brings me to another point that it's a dangerous position that an artist or one, I suppose, can get into. That we become complacent because we know now, I know how to do that kind of a painting and I just kind of do it that way the whole time, sort of thing. And I can then become repetitive because I'm comfortable and I know it works and I know it's, you know, I know how to do it. And so in that sense, I really, I really like to sort of explore. I think I quite like being a bit uncomfortable, actually.
We who are not dead cannot afford to sleep. It is necessary for poets, painters, dreamers, scholars, religious rethinkers and visionaries to raise their collective voices and jolt the public conscience, showing us the futility of the terrifying discriminations we have invented, and hopefully persuading us to resurrect the gentleness, our feminine nature, one might even say, that many of us have suppressed. Then perhaps we can go to sleep. Gananato Besekra, very, very powerful.
Let's talk about your show at the Venice Biennale in 2019, where your show titled Kinsugi, which is a Japanese word of gold stitching back together broken things. Tell us more about that.
Yes, well, it was very, very exciting. I didn't really want to do it because, again, I was in the middle of this book, but everyone persuaded me that, you know, there's no way I can say no. And so there we are. You know, that again was a lot of work, and it's an installation with a video and a book. And Ramesh Gunasekara also wrote for this this work, and so it's a combination of music, of video, of these panels of paintings, which are laser cut with mirrors, and there's most beautiful music that was created for it by Sharon Smith, who writes for Hollywood. She's a book editor in Hollywood. And so there was this sort of mixture of different Rameshas in London, so different countries working together to create this installation.
The black wings flap 2 by 2. Ark, let us make a covenant, you and I. No one else needs to know. When I end the world, your world, you will be saved. You and your partner. And those other two. And those two. And perhaps those other two. That other one, on his own, will have to take his chances. There's nothing I can do if he is alone. Only you, and those two, and those two, and those two. They will be useful next time. Across the amber sky. Amber. Caution. The mines have been cleared, but tread carefully. Someone was living here once. You'll find traces in the earth, the plants, the pale flowers turning dark at the edges.
Among so many of your international shows, there was one in Hong Kong, Sotheby's show, I think, which
Sotheby's.
was about women artists from all over the world, and you were the only one from South Asia. How was that experience for you?
Oh, that was also amazing, and again, I mean, they had to call me 3 times because I was I was not responding, but I'm so glad. And that was in 2016, and yeah, 15 artists from Kazakhstan, China, Japan was Kusama Yayoi, and from France, from Italy, from Iran, and it was to do with, as I said, the Silk Route. And women artists from Silk Road, because I felt women, though they may not have been the ones traveling in the caravans with the silk, and might not have been the women.
But their works their creations were.
Yeah, would have been the people producing the work a lot of the time, might have been women, would have been women. And of course it came the title, One Belt, One Road, which is of course in China's very powerful statement about how they want to continue. And so that also was very exciting, meeting all these incredible artists, and they all came. Sadly, Kusama Yayoi did not come, but I was rather thrilled that my work was right next to hers. And some very wonderful artists of different ages, you know, kind of a whole, some very young, some older, obviously. And just the interaction and the response in Hong Kong was amazing. Of course, it was Sotheby's, so that was also very, very thrilling. And, you know, to have Sotheby's guards guard your work, you know, was quite something. Yeah, so it was a very interesting, interactive experience because of the women artists and how much we engaged and cared and shared, you know, like Russia as well, the Russian artists as well. So that was.
You also mentioned that you did your schooling in India. Where exactly did you go to school in India?
Well, I went to Kodaikanal to the convent, yeah, which since has packed up, and I think I was just sent because I was just so out of control and so naughty. And
I can't imagine.
Across the water, as far away. No, but you know, it was a very strict convent, and but there again, it was very exciting because I you know, at a very young age, I was with students from 22 countries.
Right.
Girls came from Thailand, from East Africa, you know, Asians from East Africa, and then various Greeks, all kinds of nationalities, and all kinds of.
So there's always been this wonderful cosmopolitan atmosphere around ANOMA, and it sort of, that was there in your early life, and it has continued all through your life.
Yes, I suppose my father was half English, so I suppose in a way we've grown up with this very cosmopolitan, and that maybe is also why I have this very global, if you like, view, or sort of the idea of diversity. I mean, I'm also a product of diversity. My parents come from 2 different religions and 2 different castes. And so there's all this whole kind of melange, which I think is, I'm very grateful for that.
Yes, absolutely. It's a huge privilege to be born. And,
no, I had that experience. So that was, you know, this very tiny Colombo experience, and then suddenly India, and all these other people in India, you know, people who lived in Africa and people who lived in Thailand, and Greek, you know, it was amazing. And then at 18, I went to college in Loughborough in England, which is in the Midlands, and it's very, very different from southern England, which I had visited a couple of times, but very little. And then that was my foundation. So I was then, it's near Leicester, Loughborough, a very, very good art college, and part of Loughborough University now. And then I moved, then I got into Central St. Martin's, which of course was amazing. And an incredible experience. And of course I also lectured there as well as other colleges later. So yeah, so it's been, feels like I've been all over the place. But yes, it's interesting because you learn so much. Again, talking about new technology or it's new people, it is scary. I mean, I know that my first term in Loughborough, I couldn't really totally understand the accent and the English. No, I mean, we spoke English here, but I couldn't really get that. And I think I didn't understand the way art was being taught, because the way we were taught was very kind of, representational, and suddenly the whole thing was thrown up in the air, and I just was so lost. I think every night I was scared. Every night and every morning I woke up absolutely petrified of going into the studio. But by by the middle of the second term, I'd kind of got to grips with it. And so there is all this, we're back to that same thing of everything that was being kind of challenging and scary. But, that's the journey, to try and engage with it, and rather than, run away from it. Yeah. I mean, India was quite a challenge. It was a worse challenge because, of course, it was a convent.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. Went to church 5 times a day.
Wow.
5. But I'd grown up with my mother being Christian and my father being more Buddhist, and so I've been to the temple and church with them. We went to chapel several times a day.
Yeah. And one of the best things about this experience of growing up in a multi-religious, multicultural household is that you have a deep understanding of how different faiths work, and deep understanding of that sort of diversity, which in today's world is is a big challenge all over the world. In fact, you see it in America, where the white supremacists are there; in India, where
you see it in England. What do you think? What Brexit about? That is also white, or not maybe, or some sort of supremacy, right?
Yeah.
And and I mean, and let's not look at our countries also.
Yes. So it becomes very important for an artist to sort of shine the light on these hidden areas which people want to sort of brush under the carpet, when there's so much talk about this nationalism and how one faith or one race is superior to the others, which
I mean, it's at the end we'll all be underground or burnt or buried or whatever, and makes no matter. I mean, what color skin or what race or religion or gender or whatever,
right.
And so my thing is, where can we find our universality? Where can we find our humanity? And I mean, do we see ourselves as so different from a tree or a dog? I mean, are we? And are we superior? And I mean, a lot of my paintings have, the figure embedded in nature, if you like. I think there's quite a few where they're sort of meshed. And what I'm trying to say here is, we are nature. We're not above nature or something. We are nature. Take your clothes off. And what are we? Are we different from a tree? And we're not as good looking as a leopard, but you know what? We're just a different species. So it's about trying to find the connects. It's about the fact that we're interconnected. And it's about the fact that it's find the connections in common, rather than looking for all the, everything that isn't, to celebrate the fact that, I learned a lot from my cat, for instance.
In the recent years, Anoma has trying to sort of encapsulate her whole life's journey and sort of define herself more. You recently came out with a monograph in 2019, and it has all your artistic creative work from your half a century of creative involvement. Where does that come from? Is that coming from a need to sort of define yourself or leave something for the future generations to sort of?
No, actually, I hadn't even thought about it, but then various people were telling me, isn't it time that you did the book? And I just thought, I'd rather be painting than sort of sitting there collating. And then, really became that it was also important to archive the work and to collate the work. And, and I also felt that these were 2-3 things. The work is about these issues, which are to do really about transformation, self-discovery, the internal journey. It's to do with, inclusivity, diversity, migration, the sort of whole universality of man, if you like, and humanity, if you like, and then, of course, climate change. And somehow I thought, through the book, I can share these ideas in a wider way, than through exhibitions, which again, most people have not seen all my work because, they have not seen the exhibitions that have been in Sydney, say.
Right.
And the ones that have been in the Maldives or in New Delhi or Dubai or London. So, so suddenly there was a way of putting it all together because a lot of people look at it and say, oh, but I never saw that work. And of course, it's not in Colombo, or the ones in the people in London looking at it, or in Sydney looking at the book are saying, oh, wow, I didn't know about this work, So it was a way of putting it together, but by doing it also, I discovered a lot about, myself and about the work, really, and what the key areas were that that I am pursuing and that I want to pursue. And the ideas became more structured, if you like. I could just see, because in a way, it wasn't that I was thinking, oh, I'm going to do something about climate change. It just actually happened. Each thing happened as I went along, because that's what I was impassioned by. But then I can now see that there is this very strong 3 lines that run through it.
I don't really start working without my sketchbooks, and I mean, they're with me the whole time. They're like a sort of Bible, notepad. Sometimes I spend weeks just working on sketches, weeks sometimes just writing. So it sort of has a whole life before I actually start even sketching a painting. Lots of possibilities of ideas. I mean, lots of ideas here that, have never been used. Then I might just sit down and do, I think this was the Abubula, 100 years ago. So that's the kind of process that is part of my, part of my process. I look at
Anoma, I'd like you to share a bit about the festival, the Sri Lanka Design Festival, where you are the artist spotlight. What kind of things one can look forward to in this annual festival, which happens, but this year, of course, it's going to be virtual mostly. Tell us more about it.
I think almost totally virtual. So the keynote speaker is the ex-Prime Minister of Bhutan, who is a very strong voice on sustainability. And Bhutan has a very strong position in terms of carbon footprint, etc. And so that's going to be very, very thrilling. We have 2 creative legends being discussed. There's Chitrasena, a great dancer, and the Chitrasena Dance School, and Ina De Silva, who's a great designer, being discussed. And there's fashion. There's a lot of stuff to do with IT and where new thinking is going in terms of technology, actually. And so it's the idea of using design, because design comes into all of these areas, right, obviously. Well, there's, obviously fashion design and all those things as well, but into so many aspects, and also to do with the craft industry. And very much the idea is, sustainable tourism. There's a sector on jewelry, because Sri Lanka is famed for its gems. So in fact, I haven't even had time to go in and see what I would like to register for, but there seems to be so much. And then my events are just 3 half-hour sessions, and my videos will be shown for the first time as well. 3 of my videos. So that's kind of that'll be interesting. See, some of them are very short, so 3 minutes. One is 6 minutes, one is 8, and one is 12. And then the conversation with Ashok Ferry and the collector Sunetra Bandaranaike coming and looking at my work. So so I think it's amazing. Linda Spelderwin, the founder of the festival, is very dynamic and has very strong ideas on sustainability. And so it's I think it's a very powerful comment, if you like, on our times as well, you know, and how we move forward now, having had or still suffering from the pandemic. So it engages with all these questions. So it's quite it's not just design, it's actually quite thinking deeply about the past as well as the future. The past with the creative legends, the now, and then the future as well.
It is. It sounds like a wonderful exploration of all you've done, and especially the other names that you mentioned who are going to be part of the festival. We wish you a wonderful journey ahead, Anoma, and in your work and as a creator, as an explorer of the arts. Thank you so much for being on HUNAR CHARCHA online. Wish you.
I'm delighted. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. That's great. It's lovely to talk to you. I'm very honored.